On my wedding day, I exposed my cheating husband's lies in front of everyone. Furious, he grabbed a wine bottle from the table and smashed it against my head. The sharp pain sent me crashing to the ground, but that wasn't the worst part. What happened next was even more shocking, something I never imagined would happen on what should have been the happiest day of my life. Hello, my name is Mia, and I'm 28 years old. I work as a graphic designer in the vibrant city of Springfield. For the past 5 years, this city has been my home, a place where creativity thrives, blending urban energy with peaceful neighborhoods. My job has always been my passion. It's challenging, inspiring, and allows me to express myself in ways I never imagined. Springfield has a unique charm. It's a city that's always alive, yet it offers quiet corners where you can escape the rush. I found my rhythm here, balancing my love for design with the little joys of life. Morning coffee at the cafe on Main Street, strolls through the park, and evenings spent sketching ideas that come to life on my screen. This city has been more than a home, it's been my canvas. I moved here with big dreams, and over time, I've built a life that I'm proud of. My work allows me to explore my creativity, and the community I've found here has made Springfield a place I love. Life isn't always perfect, but I've learned to embrace the challenges and find beauty in the unexpected. I met Lucas 3 years ago at a cozy little coffee shop on Main Street in Springfield. I had gone there to work on a design project, my laptop and sketchpad spread across the tiny table. It was a chilly fall afternoon, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. Lucas walked in wearing a leather jacket and a charming smile that instantly lit up the room. I noticed him because he seemed so at ease, chatting with the barista like they were old friends. As fate would have it, the only available seat in the cafe was the one directly across from me. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, holding his coffee and a book I later learned was about entrepreneurship. I hesitated at first. I wasn't used to strangers interrupting my workspace, but there was something disarming about his smile. "Sure," I replied, moving my things to make space. The conversation started casually. He asked about my sketches, and I explained my job as a graphic designer. He told me he was starting a business and had just moved to Springfield to be closer to his family. We ended up talking for hours, sharing stories and laughing like old friends. By the time we left the cafe, I felt like I'd known him forever. Lucas had a way of making people feel seen, like they were the most important person in the world. From that day, we became inseparable. We shared dreams, built plans, and imagined a future together. I thought I had found my perfect partner, someone who truly understood me. But on my wedding day, the man I thought I knew would show me a side of him I never expected. The first time I met Lucas's mother, Clara, was 6 months into our relationship. Lucas had been insistent, saying it was important for me to meet his family if we were going to build a future together. I was nervous, but also excited. Meeting the family of someone you love feels like a significant step. Clara lived in a large, impeccably kept house on the outskirts of Springfield. Lucas had told me she prided herself on appearances, and that was clear the moment I stepped inside. The house was pristine, with perfectly arranged furniture, spotless windows, and a faint floral scent that seemed carefully curated. Clara greeted me with a polite but distant smile. She was a petite woman with sharp features and an air of authority that made me instantly cautious. Her handshake was firm, her eyes scanning me as if she were evaluating a business proposition rather than meeting her son's girlfriend. "So you're Mia," she said, her tone neutral but bordering on cold. "Lucas has mentioned you." "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Brown," I replied, trying to sound cheerful and warm. She nodded, motioning for me to sit down in the living room. The conversation that followed was formal, almost like an interview. She asked about my job, where I grew up, and my goals. At first, I thought she was simply being thorough, but it quickly became clear that Clara was testing me. "So you're a graphic designer. she said after I explained my work. Interesting. Do you see that as stable enough for a future? I blinked, caught off guard by the question. Yes, it's a career I'm passionate about, and I've been doing well for myself. Clara hummed noncommittally, her expression unreadable. The rest of the evening continued in much the same way, polite but laced with subtle digs and questions designed to unsettle me. When we left, I felt exhausted and uneasy. Lucas tried to reassure me, saying, "She's just protective. She'll warm up to you eventually." But Clara didn't warm up to me. In fact, over time, her distaste for me became harder to ignore. Fast forward to today, my wedding day. The tension between Clara and me hadn't improved much over the years, but I had hoped she would set her feelings aside for the sake of Lucas and our big day. Unfortunately, the morning had been filled with subtle jabs from her, from comments about my dress to thinly veiled criticism of the decorations I had carefully chosen. I tried to focus on the positives. The venue in Maplewood was stunning, a beautiful blend of rustic charm and elegance. Fairy lights draped the wooden beams, and the tables were adorned with delicate floral arrangements. My friends and family had gone above and beyond to make the day special, and for a while, their joy helped me forget Clara's icy demeanor. But the peace didn't last. As the reception was in full swing, I was laughing with a group of friends when Clara appeared beside me, her expression as stiff as ever. She tapped me on the arm, and I turned to face her. "Mia, a word," she said, her tone sharp enough to make my stomach churn. I followed her to a quieter corner, away from the laughter and music, already sensing that whatever she had to say wasn't going to be pleasant. Lucas joined us a moment later, clearly noticing Clara's tense expression. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Clara folded her arms and gave me a pointed look. "The owner of the venue just approached me. He claims there's a $30,000 balance on the deposit that hasn't been paid." I froze, the words hitting me like a slap. "That's not possible. I paid the deposit months ago." "Well," Clara said with a smirk that didn't reach her eyes, "according to him, Lucas and I promised you'd cover the rest. So where's the money?" My gaze snapped to Lucas. "What is she talking about?" Lucas shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. "It's not a big deal, Mia. We had to move some things around, and I figured you'd handle this one since, well, you're better with money." I stared at him, my mind reeling. "You figured I'd just pay $30,000 without you even telling me." "Lower your voice," Lucas said, glancing around to see if anyone was watching. "This isn't the time to argue." "No, Lucas, this is exactly the time," I snapped, anger bubbling to the surface. "How could you and your mother make that decision without even consulting me?" Clara stepped forward, her voice laced with mock sympathy. "Now, Mia, let's not make a scene. It's only money, and as Lucas said, you're the responsible one." The words stung, not because of their content, but because of their blatant disregard for my feelings. The crowd around us began to notice the raised voices, their chatter quieting as they watched the confrontation unfold. The tension was palpable as more guests began to turn their heads in our direction. I tried to keep my composure, but the betrayal I felt from both Lucas and Clara was overwhelming. "Only money?" I repeated, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "It's $30,000, Clara, and it's not about the amount, it's about the fact that you went behind my back." Lucas reached out to touch my arm, his expression darkening. "Mia, let's not do this here." I pulled my arm away. "No, Lucas, we're doing this here. How could you think it was okay to make a decision like that without even asking me?" Lucas's jaw tightened, and I saw a flicker of anger in his eyes. He glanced around at the watching guests, then turned back to me. "I told you it's not a big deal. Why are you making this into such a scene?" "Because you lied to me," I shot back, my voice trembling. "You and your mother decided to manipulate me into covering your debts, and now you're acting like I'm the unreasonable one." The air was heavy with silence as every eye in the room fixated on us. Clara stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "Mia, you're embarrassing yourself. This is why I had my doubts about you." Her words hit me like a punch, but before I could respond, Lucas snapped. "You know what, Maya?" he hissed, his face twisted with rage. "If you're going to act like this, maybe you're the one who doesn't belong here." Before I could react, Lucas grabbed a nearby wine bottle from the table and, in one swift motion, struck me on the side of the head. The room erupted in gasps and cries of shock as I stumbled, my hand instinctively going to the stinging pain on my temple. The world seemed to slow down. The chatter, the music, the laughter, it all disappeared, replaced by a deafening silence. I stood frozen, a mix of pain, shock, and betrayal coursing through me. One of my friends rushed to my side, steadying me as I tried to process what had just happened. The guests looked on in horror, many pulling out their phones to capture the chaos. "Lucas," someone shouted, their voice filled with disbelief. "What are you doing?" Lucas seemed to realize the magnitude of his actions. His face paled, and he took a step back, the wine bottle still in his hand. I straightened myself, ignoring the throbbing pain in my head. My voice was calm but steady as I looked him straight in the eye. "You just proved exactly who you are, Lucas, and you're going to face the consequences for this." The room was a whirlwind of chaos. Guests murmured in shock, and a few rushed forward to help me. Lucas stood frozen, the wine bottle slipping from his hand and clattering to the floor. Clara's confident facade finally cracked as panic spread across her face. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. My head throbbed from where the bottle had struck, but the pain was nothing compared to the betrayal I felt. I turned to my friend, Lily, who was already dialing 911 on her phone. "Thank you," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the turmoil around me. "Mia, this has gone too far," Clara shouted, stepping toward me. "This is all just a misunderstanding." I raised a hand to silence her. "No, Clara, this isn't a misunderstanding. This is abuse, and it ends today." Lucas tried to approach me, his expression a mix of anger and desperation. "Mia, listen." "Don't you dare," I interrupted, my voice cold and resolute. "Don't say another word to me. You've done enough." Within minutes, the police arrived, their flashing lights casting an eerie glow through the venue windows. The officers entered and immediately assessed the scene, speaking to the guests and taking statements. "This man assaulted me," I told one of the officers, pointing at Lucas, "and I want to press charges." Lucas's face turned pale as the gravity of the situation hit him. He stammered, It was a mistake. I didn't mean." But the officer cut him off, reading him his rights as he placed Lucas in handcuffs. Clara protested loudly, trying to shift the blame onto me, but the officers weren't interested in her theatrics. "You'll regret this, Mia," Clara yelled as Lucas was escorted out. "You've destroyed this family." I turned to her, my voice calm but firm. "No, Clara. You and Lucas destroyed it long before today. This is me taking my life back." The days that followed were exhausting. I filed charges against Lucas for assault, and as more details about the $30,000 venue scheme emerged, I added financial fraud to the list. My lawyer assured me we had a strong case and the evidence was damning. The wedding venue owner provided testimony about the fraudulent arrangement Clara and Lucas had made, further solidifying my case. In court, Lucas tried to downplay his actions, claiming he had acted in the heat of the moment. Clara attempted to paint me as dramatic and unreasonable, but the evidence was overwhelming. The footage from the wedding, the testimonies from guests, and the venue owner's account left no room for doubt. The judge's verdict was swift and clear. "Lucas Brown, you are sentenced to 6 months in jail for assault, with an additional fine of $30,000 to be paid as restitution for the fraudulent venue charges. Clara Brown, your actions in aiding and abetting the fraud will result in a $15,000 fine and mandatory community service. The sound of the gavel was like a weight lifting off my shoulders. Justice had been served. After the trial, I made the decision to leave Springfield and start fresh. I found a quaint little apartment in a quieter city, where I could focus on healing and rebuilding my life. My job as a graphic designer became my anchor, giving me a sense of purpose and stability. Though the pain of betrayal lingered, I felt stronger than ever. The experience had taught me to value myself and never tolerate being disrespected or manipulated. With every step forward, I reclaimed the joy and independence I thought I had lost. Sitting in my new home, sipping a cup of tea, I smiled to myself. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed Mia's story, a journey of resilience, courage, and justice. Stories like these remind us of the strength it takes to reclaim our lives and rise above betrayal. If this story inspired you or kept you on the edge of your seat, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in Mia's place? Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to our channel for more empowering stories like this one. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more inspiring tales to you. Thank you for being a part of our community. Stay tuned for more stories that uplift, engage, and empower.